Hey guys, this is Doug with fellowshipofthemartyrs.com from the website. Lots more stuff on there, particularly in the big picture book. Lots of different chapters there about some different deep things. I want to talk a little bit today about economics, specifically God's economics, because that's all that really matters. Who really cares about man's economics? Why bother with that? What with it all going to burn in the fire and everything, especially coming up on the end of everything. So let's talk a little bit about God's economics. Now, of course, his ways are perfect. So I don't want to give the impression that somehow his way is upside down from our way. Technically speaking, our way is upside down from his way, because he's right and we're wrong. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between the carnal and the spiritual. In man's economy, everything runs on dollars. And you're to try to store up treasure on earth, where the Lord specifically says not to do that, not to store up treasure on earth, that he had no bed to lay his head, that he had nothing, and that even sent them out with no gold, no silver, just trust him to provide for everything. He says to store up treasure in heaven, where moths can't eat it and thieves can't steal and rust doesn't destroy. Okay, well, that's not cash. That's the crowns that we have in heaven. Paul talks about that he's run the race, that he's earned the crown, whatever. Well, this isn't about works, okay? Salvation isn't about works. Discipleship, however, it kind of is. Kind of is, because he expects you to obey and do stuff. And when you obey, he gives you reward. And it's in heaven. Now, he may or may not ever reward you with earthly treasure. Paul says that he was happy regardless, in times of want, in times of excess, in shipwreck, in disaster, in comfort, and whatever. You're still thankful because your eyes are not on the carnal, your eyes are on the spiritual. Anyway, so in man's economy, there's pyramids with a guy at the top. It doesn't matter what it is. Government, man-made church, armies, generals, colonels, captains, and then the grunts, what do we call those? Maggots, right, Rusty? Maggots at the bottom, of the chain of command there. God's economy is the other way around, where the servants are at the bottom, lifting everybody up toward the top, toward the Lord. The other way around. In man's economy, you want to be first. You want to be up. You want to climb your way up the top of the ladder. You want to step on the people below you, crush them under you, and climb your way up the ladder until you hit your glass ceiling, whatever that might be for you, depending on your Peter Principle level of incompetence and everything. In God's economy, it's the other way around. He wants you to sit at the back of the table. He wants you to eat the crumbs. He wants you to wear the apron and serve everybody. If you try to get to the seat of honor, you're a Pharisee and you're probably not one of his, and you're in big trouble. If somebody comes in with a gold watch and you sit him at the front and say to the poor man, here, sit at my feet, humble yourself, but we'll give him a place of honor, then you don't even know God, and your religion is false. That's out of James. So God's economy is the other way around, where if you want to be the premier guy in the kingdom, if you want to be the guy that sits at the right hand of God, well, then you need to be stoned and whipped and have a crown of thorns and crucified and take on the sins of the world and serve everybody for all time in the most horrifying way that anybody can possibly imagine, and take everything on you even though you don't deserve any of it. That will get you to the right hand of God, and pretty much is something that only he can do, and only Jesus in you can do anything like that, because the you in you wants to do this stuff desperately. And of course, Satan is going to encourage you to do these things because it's the exact opposite of what God's economy says you should be doing. The Jesus in you, he's going to be able to do this stuff because that's what he's wired for, because he's made special and he's the best that ever was at servanthood, at suffering, at setting himself last, at humility, at all of that stuff. And as you die and you become more mature and you become less carnal and you become transformed by the renewing of your mind, then you become more like him. So, one good way to know how much treasure in heaven somebody has is to look at their life and see how carnal they are. If they are still fighting about their little divisions and factions, and I'm for Paul, I'm for Cephas, I'm for Apollos, no, you're still carnal. You are not yet spiritual. We can't feed you meat because you're still on the milk, because you haven't even figured out God's economy yet. That's 1 Corinthians 3 and lots of other places. We look at these people who keep their eyes off of the flesh, who don't worry about tomorrow because today has enough trouble of its own, who understand that God feeds the birds and the flowers and he takes care of them, how much more will he take care of you that are his children? They're spiritual. If, James talks about, if we say next year we're going to go here and do this and do that, who are you? Who are you? Your life could be required of you today. Better just to say, God willing, we'll do this or we'll do that. But you're carnal. If you think you can have long-range plans and goals and you can set things up and plan forward and whatever and do a 50-year business plan for your congregation or whatever, carnal. You're probably a pyramid. You're probably obsessed with money. You're probably trying to be first. You're probably competing with the other megachurch in town to see who can get a bigger building fastest. Carnal. If you're holding the heads of the junkies, if you've surrendered all, if you're, have a teeny little apartment and you're just serving the Lord with all your heart, you're probably the one racking up lots of crowns to throw at his feet. Because you understand how to be last, and you understand how to care. And you have pure undefiled religion. James talks about. I was kind of like James. Luther hated James. Calvinists really don't like James. But you know what? Salvation is easy. You say you're sorry, and you commit to him that he's going to be Lord. No problem. That's easy. That's not about works. That's just about acknowledging your depravity and that you are inextricably going to be drawn to this stuff unless he does something to you. Then there's discipleship. And Luke 14 isn't talking about salvation. It's talking about discipleship. When it says you have to renounce everything that you have to carry your cross and go to your death. You have to hate mother, father, brother, kids, children, everything compared to your love for him. That's about discipleship, not about salvation. And he says, go into all the world and make disciples. Baptizing them for salvation, baptizing them in their spirit, but making disciples. And disciples do stuff. And obedience is better than sacrifice. And he expects you to obey. And he expects you to do stuff. And when he tells you to do stuff, it's probably going to be stuff that doesn't conform to the world at all and makes you look really, really foolish. Because in God's backward economy, it's not the guy with the big fancy resume and the tie and the whatever that knows a lot of stuff that is probably the guy he's going to use. It's going to be the toothless. It's going to be the guy that was murdering Christians yesterday. It's going to be the fisherman. It's going to be the prostitute that was delivered to 7 demons. He's probably going to use them because they have a heart for the least. They have a heart for the down and out. They understand how to be servants. And they are getting treasure in heaven because they sit at his feet instead of running around doing stuff all the time. Martha, Mary, Pharisees, red dragon free, seeing the true economy of God, seeing the heavenly things. Scales fall off their eyes. Understand that he is Lord. And he isn't a lifeguard. He is commander, king, and you are a bondservant. And you get to do what he tells you to do. And he is not going to tell you to do this stuff and be obsessed with this stuff. He's going to tell you to be last. And he's going to raise up the humble. And he's going to use the foolish things to confound the wise. And praise God, if you're a foolish thing, if you've been hated all your life, if you've been made fun of, if they called you fat, if they made fun of your teeth, if they made fun of whatever, that's exactly, probably the kind of guy, kind of girl that the Lord's going to use. Praise God. Praise God if you've been kicked out of these. Praise God if the church has tossed you out on your ear because you don't fit into their model, because you insist that they should be caring for the lost and lonely and they're not doing it. Praise God. Don't let it hurt your feelings when a red dragon bites you. That's what they do. They wouldn't bite you if you were like them. A little bit about God's economy. And remember, he's not backwards, we are. More on this at fellowshipofthemartyrs.com.